On the green fence. On the green fence.
Well, you better put your jacket on, it is windy.
Yeah, okay. Walking up now to the closest I have ever been to a windmill. Oh God, it's so big. I'm afraid it's gonna fall on us.
It's hollow. Yeah.
It's a very beautiful landscape here on its own. So I can see why, if you knew it beforehand, you probably hate this.
The wind story is the untrue story. Let me show you.
Ich glaube, niemand von uns möchte direkt unter einer Windanlage wohnen.
I think none of us want to live directly under one. Yet there are species in this forest that are far more sensitive than we are, and at a time when we're likely seeing the biggest biodiversity crisis since the extinction of the dinosaurs, this is a disastrous development.
Dinosaurier, eine furchtbare, fatale Entwicklung.
The problem is it's not a discussion by facts. It's an emotional discussion. This wind farm with the 18 turbines will produce power for 100,000 households.
Hello everybody, this is DW's Environment Podcast on the Green Fence, and my name is Neil King.
And this is Kristie Pladsen, Neil's temporary sidekick.
Now, if you've been listening to our series on the energy crisis, you'll know that we've just come back from a road trip across Germany. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, just go back and listen from the beginning. The first episode is about gas, and then this will make all the more sense.
Yeah, basically we wanted to find out how the energy crisis caused by Russia's war in Ukraine is affecting people here in Germany, and how Europe's biggest economy is going to meet its energy demands this winter and beyond, while still sticking to its climate goals. So we'll get into those goals in a minute here.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking, Chris, we went to a lot of places on our grand tour, and we saw some beautiful countryside, forests, went to the coast. And well, there was something that we saw every single day, if you think about it, when we were on the road, and that was wind turbines.
Yeah, we did. Like from the very beginning, the wind turbines were present. And I actually learned a new word doing this project. Remember, I told you about it. Verspagelung.
Yeah.
Yeah, which, so Spargel is the German word for asparagus. And Germans love, in particular, the big white asparagus. And so the asparagusing of Germany, of a landscape, is talking about when you put up a bunch of these big, tall, white wind turbines and that it looks like a bunch of asparagus sticking out on the hills.
Yeah. I mean, let's also back that up with some stats here, as to wind energy in Germany. There are almost 30,000 onshore wind turbines operating across the country with a combined capacity of 56 gigawatts. That's more than any other country in Europe.
Yeah, and on a global scale, only China and the US have more than that.
And these turbines, they are seen by the German government as crucial to the renewable energy transition.
Yeah, that's right. The Energiewende, as it's called here. Germany wants to be climate neutral by 2045. That's the deadline. But expanding renewables has only become even more urgent with the energy supply crunch caused by Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
So the governing coalition, that's made up of the Social Democrats, the Greens, the Liberal Democrats, they want to double the amount of electricity generated from renewable sources by 2030. And wind and solar, they are supposed to do a lot of the heavy lifting, but that's just for electricity, right? So renewables, they still need to have a bigger role in heating, transport and industry if Germany's going to get to carbon neutrality, because fossil fuels, they still cover the majority of Germany's energy needs, especially in winter.
Yeah, currently wind is Germany's biggest source of renewable energy, and the government wants 2% of all of Germany's land area to be dedicated to wind power by 2032. The Economy Ministry says that this expansion would mean between 1,000 and 1,500 new turbines needed to be installed each year until 2032.
Okay, so a lot of figures there. I hope you're still with us. But yeah, I mean, as we discovered, finding space to put all these turbines without, ruffling the feathers of the locals, so to speak, it isn't so straightforward in a very densely populated country like Germany.
Yeah, that's right. We went to a pretty special fairy tale forest right in the center of the country where this is an issue. And so this forest is in the Reinhardswald, that's in the state of Hessen, and it was apparently a haunt of the Brothers Grimm back in the 1800s, and it even inspired a few of their fairy tales, which later became quite famous.
Yeah, it's a major attraction for tourists. It's very popular with hikers, cyclists, and, of course, fans of the Brothers Grimm. And now there are plans to put rather large wind turbines there.
Yeah. The first character we want to introduce in this story is Ralf Paschold. He's a landscape architect by profession, also a hunter, a businessman, and he grew up right there in that area. Over the past few decades, he's built wind farms in Canada, France, and in northern Germany. And now his plan is to build 18 wind turbines in this forest in the Reinhardswald. But the project's been delayed by a court case filed by green groups.
Okay, so the second character in this story, which isn't a fairy story, is a very small creature. It's called a hazel dormouse, or in German, a Haselmaus. It's native to northern Europe and Asia Minor and hibernates in nests on the ground over winter. It likes eating berries and other fruit, and of course hazelnuts.
Oh, just like me. But in any case, this is a road trip podcast. So, Neil, why don't we take this conversation to the car?
In the Reinhardswald. Reinhardswald is home to one of Germany's most famous castles. Just by the by, a bit of
Local color.
local colour here, the Saberburg, which is, people might know better as the Cinderella Castle.
Is that the Cinderella one? Not the Sleeping Beauty
Sleeping
one?
Beauty one.
Okay, I didn't know if we were
It's
talking
too
about...
early in the morning.
Yeah.
It's the Sleeping
It's okay,
Beauty.
Sleeping Beauty.
Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah.
Yeah, beauty. Yeah. Yeah. Just let him look in the mirror.
All right, and you want to ask him about something specific, Neil?
Well, I really want to know, I want to get his take on the hazel mouse. Because apparently that is something that the environmentalists who are suing against this wind park in the Reinhardswald, one of the things that they've actually used to stall it, the fact that there are hazel mice in this forest. And I don't know much about hazel mice, do you?
No, they sound adorable, though.
Yeah, they look very cute.
Yeah.
I had a look at them earlier on Google, and
I assume they're like a hazel color.
yeah, sort of a light brown color.
Sweet.
Apparently for their habitat they need a lot of bushes and shrubs and stuff. And when they build these wind turbines in forests, obviously they not just have to clear the area around the wind turbines, but also they need roads to get to the wind turbines for maintenance purposes, etc.
Sure.
So, yeah, I guess these little mice, they might have an issue with it.
Might have something to say about it. Hello, Kristie Hello. Well, we met Mr. Paschold at his office. We were greeted by the friendly neighborhood Doberman.
We actually stayed in the car for a while, didn't we? Because we
Yeah, I know,
we
we
both
didn't-
like dogs, but we weren't sure
Yeah,
about this one.
Doberman ran right up to the door. So, yeah. In any case, this is Mr. Paschold.
This is my project.
This is the plan.
Yes, this is the plan. And this is the plan I started.
And he showed us his plans for the
started
project, which he says is costing a little over 150 million euros.
And we go out now in the area, and so it's much better for you to see from what I speak.
Okay. Let's
Sounds
check
good.
it out.
Let's go.
It's okay for you?
Yeah.
Okay. So.
Okay, let's hop back in the car then.
And then we drove behind him into the forest to see where he wants to put up these 170-meter high turbines.
Beautiful fall day.
Now, there are 800-year-old oak trees in some parts of the Reinhardswald, but they're strictly protected, so it's important to say there won't be any turbines being built in that part of the forest.
Yeah, and that's actually a narrative you often see in the media. And they told the people we met while we were there in the Reinhardswald area actually told us that it's sort of a narrative that's been latched onto by far-right groups, sort of pushing this kind of like traditional Germany under threat aspect, which is a big part of their platform. So that was something that some of the activists that we spoke to later were saying that was difficult for them because they are trying to save the forest, but they see themselves as very distinct from those groups of people.
Yeah, it's all lumped together sometimes on the.
Yeah, if you're sort of anti-environmental or anti-green energy, you can quickly get end up in there. But we'll get to that point later. Let's talk to Paschold now.
So you've taken us to the
Sleeping Beauty.
Yes,
the fairy tale castles.
that's right. This is the castle from the Sleeping Beauty, and we can have a look inside if the Sleeping Beauty is inside.
She's still inside,
So,
yeah. And who's gonna kiss her? You or you?
Okay.
I've got a cold.
Yeah,
you
so
go
you're-
first.
Okay, so I can go. She's very nice. So, this castle was a point on our way to get the permit for the turbines.
It's like from the 14th century, this castle, right?
Yes,
It's quite old.
It's quite old, yes. So, and we must bring a lot of things together for realize such kind of project. And one of this is the German word is Denkmalschutz.
Like cultural protection, I think.
Yes, cultural. So we make pictures, we make photos from this point, and how will it be when you see our turbines in the background and the castle. And there was some people who say no, it could not be that you have this old castle and the modern turbines in the background and so on. And it was a great discussion. And one of the points we have to make clear that it's not a problem. If you are looking this castle, you are looking this castle, and you don't look to the turbines on the horizon.
Because this is
know?
where they would be built,
Yes.
or on the horizon.
This is
Yeah.
one of the part, and
It's like 2 miles off or what?
yes,
on the ridge there.
around that. Yes, for the next 30 years, I will produce energy there. Perhaps we have then a better idea than produce energy with wind turbines. And if we have a better idea, I am able to put them down in a few days, one turbine. I don't have things like nuclear power waste, which is poison for for thousands of years for the next generations. So the wind turbines I can put down and can reduce the steel and the other stuff.
And does that sort of affect you emotionally when you feel like, okay, I'm cutting down trees or I'm putting
Yes.
wind turbines in an area? I mean, how does that make you feel? You are changing the landscape, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And this is why I'm very careful to look for the points. Where can I go? Because I know all that. And I know that is an impact in the landscape. But I have to weight it up. We have the earth heating. We have all the problems. We need power more and more. We want to go by cars with electric power and so on. So we have to find a good way to produce our power. So I say yes. For me, it's okay now to bring the turbines in the forest. The whole forest are 20,000 hectares. I need just 14 hectares for the wind farm. It's 0.07%. And I say it's okay for the target we want to go. From this 20,000 hectare, we have 7,000 hectare spruce. And from this 7,000 hectare are 5,500 hectare spruce just died just away. I will show you this parts when we are going there now.
But these are plantations, right? Those are monoculture plantations.
Yes, that's right.
That were planted for timber production.
That's right. And this is it makes me easy to go inside a timber plantation for say, okay, it's like a field where you have corn or so from the biodiversity. So I say it's a good point now for us to go to the forest that you see what we are talking about.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
All right, let's go.
I don't want another punctured tyre.
Yeah, we're sort of off-roading now. Oh, wow. Yeah, so,
Yeah, this is bark beetle infestation,
yeah.
100%.
Yeah, 'cause what we're seeing is just, I guess, dozens and dozens of trees.
Just tree trunks.
Tree trunks, stumps.
Stumps, yeah.
Yeah. Freshly cut. And huge piles of wood. So,
Taking us to Mordor.
yeah,
That's
where
what this looks like.
They prepared this area for plant new forest trees. So they bring together all the dead material from the spruce, which was growing on this site, and which are died because,
The bark beetle.
bark beetle, no water, no rain this year, no rain. So,
Because what we see here is what? Is there dozens or hundreds of trees cut down?
I want to prepare my places for the wind turbines, and I cannot go on because I have to look at all the what do you say for Baumstumpf?
Stump.
For the stump, that there isn't a dormouse,
Oh,
Yeah, because-
these were the mice.
Dormouse, yeah.
It's,
It's not-
hazel mouse, I thought.
No, hazel. Yeah,
Have you seen any hazel mice here?
no, we don't have them here in this area.
Perhaps just take one step back. Basically, what's happened, your project has been stalled
Yes.
because there's a court which is saying there are mice in this region,
Yeah.
and we've got to, make a proper assessment of just how many they are, maybe, or how dangerous this is to these mice as their habitat.
Yes.
And so you now are trying to come to terms with that. But as long as the court says no, we have to look into this, you can't do anything.
That's right.
All right, I think we should check out the exact spot where you want to put one of the turbines. Can you show us? Is it-
Yes.
We'll walk to it, right?
Wir gehen ein Stück da hoch und wir werden uns.
Actually, sorry, you just go ahead. I'll catch you up. I've just got to see a man about a dormouse. I'll be with you very soon.
Okay, where are we standing now?
No, we are standing on the area where we are wanting to build a wind turbine. My next step is to bring out the stump, but I cannot go ahead with this work because the court stopped me. No, I have to look if there are hazelmouses or something, other animals or so.
Oh, I see one. No, I'm just kidding.
But just just from a purely business perspective, this time, I mean, as a businessman, time is money, right?
Yes, that's right.
How much time would you say have you lost already because of objections or because things have been stalled? I mean, how much time?
Just the time for get the permit. It needs 2.5 years
Why?
because the process is too difficult. It's up to the political people to make this process much easier. We have a lot of points like protect old castles and look for the hazelmouse, also for the birds, for the bats, and the small salamander. From my point of view, it's okay. I will protect them because my heart is beating for that. But we can bring all the things together. It's easy.
But just in terms of also investment, because you're investing in this, right?
Yes, that's right.
I mean, when is the point reached where you say, I've got to cut my losses? This is taking
Never.
too long.
Never, because these projects are needed for us. We have enough money to survive this time. Yes, this wind farm will be realized. I think we are get the turbines running in 2024.
But you're a businessman, right? It has to be profitable in the end. Or would you do it even if it isn't profitable?
We will. This is a very strong wind area here. We have wind speed from 7.6 to 8.2 meters per second. It's like an area on the coast in Germany. And one turbines produce on this place 20 million kilowatt hours per year. It's enough power for 6,000 households. This wind farm with the 18 turbines will produce power for 100,000 households. From the business side, we have success. But what we not have is the time.
Okay. But then you've also answered my next question, because that would have been, why does it have to be in a forest? Couldn't it just be in a field? But this area is a windy area. That's why it has to be here.
Yeah, you see, when we come here, we go,
It's actually a bit
up,
of a wind
up,
going
up,
now.
up. We go up, and yes, you have the best wind conditions if you are on the hill and not in the valley. So this is why we are here.
Looking at energy prices right now, with gas prices being so high and just how the energy market functions, owners of renewables, they're making a killing right now, right? Because the price is so high.
No, you see, we have a system, it's called Merit Order.
Yeah.
We produce for really lost price energy around, at the moment, 6 cents. And the customers have to pay what's the price on the market if we produce with gas.
Right.
And the gas price is much, much higher.
Yeah.
So this is a real problem. Bring the information to the people that it's really cheap if we produce renewable energy in front of our house door.
Yeah. Well, it's the cheapest form of energy, no doubt about
Yes,
that.
it is.
But on the other hand, what I was getting at
The
is
wind doesn't send us a bill.
yeah. But on the other hand, it also means that operators of wind farms right now they're making a lot of money, and there's also this talk about windfall tax and to try and siphon off that money. Is that something that frustrates you, thinking that I could be earning all this
No.
money right now if
No,
this
no.
had gone faster?
It's not the target from the wind farmers to earn this different to the merit order from the gas price.
But they are.
But yes, it's a fact from the system. But I also, for me, it's correct as a wind farmer. I will share this, what I earn more now, with the community, with the people in our country, for bring the prices from the electrical power down.
Right.
It's okay. It's okay. Why not?
That's on tape now.
Gotta stick to it. Yeah.
What is the trade-off? What is more important? Is it more important that we get the Energiewende sorted and we get wind turbines here? Or is the dormouse or the hazelmouse more important?
I'm very, very sure we can have it all, both. Protect the dormouse, protect the animals, the birds. We can do it easily, and can, on the other hand, we can bring the wind turbines on this ground. If we are careful, you see, we are careful. We protect the small amphibians, and we are looking for the birds and the bats and so on. Yeah. I know that there are no mice. I was here with a sniffer dog, and I know it.
No, this was just hypothetically speaking. If there were loads of mice there, would it change your attitude at all?
It's not the question, because there are no mice. So, and if we found ways to protect them and don't have to kill them. No, okay. No way.
Why do you think? Because you're an environmentally minded person. At least that's how you come across, right? Why do you think there are people that are against this?
The problem is it's not a discussion by facts. It's an emotional discussion. And I have a feeling for that, because I like a landscape without wind turbines, without roads, without trains. I like it much more, just pure nature. But we have to find a way to bring all that what we want on Earth together. We all go with our cars. We need power for our iPhones, and yes, and we don't want to have the wind turbines. We must find a way to create power we need in a sustainable way. And this we can do with wind power and solar. Yeah. So, and if we have a better idea in the next 10, 20, 30 years, yes, we can go another way. But at the moment, for me, wind power and solar, it's the best we can do.
And so that's where we left Mr. Paschold, and he seemed pretty confident that his project is going to go ahead despite the obstacles he's facing. He seemed to see the dormouse as just a little hiccup along the way, and that his plans are going to go through.
Yeah. Poor dormouse, eh? But, I mean, given the government's push to expand renewables, he does have the wind at his back, so to speak. And he was very clear, we need more sustainable energy sources so that we don't have to rely on fossil fuels so much, for example, to get around in our cars or heat our homes. And he thinks his wind park can help. I mean, he's definitely convinced of that.
Right, so this is a good time to bring in our third character in this story. Meet Annette Müller-Zitzke.
Ja, ich komme aus dem Nachbarort. Also ursprünglich komme ich aus Gütersloh.
Now, she's an occupational therapist who moved to the area many years ago from Western Germany, and she's from the campaign group Save the Reinhardswald. And like Mr. Paschold, she also took us into the forest, but she wanted to show us why she thinks putting wind turbines there could be a bad idea.
And let's emphasize here, she is an environmentally minded person, right? With wind, other than a lot of the other episodes, there's friction within the environmentalist camp over this.
Ja.
Ja, und der Reinhardswald ist einfach auch aufgrund seiner Unzerschnittenheit ökologisch.
The Reinhardswald is ecologically important simply because it's largely untouched. There's no highway through here, no power lines, no major roads, no railway lines. There are parts of this forest that are several thousand years old, and in all this time, it was never fragmented in the way it would have to be to make way for wind turbines. The forest and its soil is our #1 reservoir for drinking water. It's also known for its high biodiversity and is considered a treasure trove of European forests. There are protected amphibians, mice, the red kite. 16 of the turbines would be in an area where 10 different bat species have been found. And all bat species in Germany are strictly protected, including some that are on the red list of threatened species.
Und alle Fledermausarten in Deutschland sind streng geschützt. Darunter auch einige, die auf der roten Liste stehen. Und ja.
What would building these wind parks mean for those species?
Ja, gibt es jetzt eine neue Studie, ich glaube aus dem Juli veröffentlicht.
Well, there's a new study published by the Leibniz Institute for Zoo and Wildlife Research in Berlin, and they found for the first time that it's not just about how bats, for example, can be hit and killed by a wind turbine, or that low-pressure zones created by the spinning blades can make their lungs burst, but that areas up to 450 meters from the turbine can be impacted. The flight movements in habitats within this range drop to half, and that affects forest bats in particular. Now there's proof showing that, of course, these huge machines have an impact on the surrounding nature, and this is far-reaching. It's not just about the immediate spot where the turbine is. With us humans, there's this whole discussion about how close turbines can be to houses. I think none of us want to live directly under one. Yet there are species in this forest that are far more sensitive than we are, and at a time when we're likely seeing the biggest biodiversity crisis since the extinction of the dinosaurs, this is a disastrous development. We're depriving species of their habitats, and this is not just about the red kite and bats. It affects everything that lives in the soil. Just a handful of Earth contains something like a 6-digit number of species. It affects ferns, mosses, lichens, the things people don't think about when it comes to species protection. And these don't even feature in the discussions about this.
Und auch in der Diskussion merken wir, dass das überhaupt keine Rolle spielt.
Yeah. So maybe we've heard about the Haselmaus. Maybe you can talk about what is...
Die Haselmaus ist keine Maus, ist eigentlich ein Bilch. Die gehört
The Haselmaus isn't actually a mouse, but a dormouse, and it's strictly protected because it's an endangered species that can be found everywhere in the forest. Like many other animals, it needs undisturbed habitats and thrives in areas with shrubs and bushes. Dormice hibernate from around the end of September to April or May, and if their habitat is cleared, they'll wake up in May, see it's not nice here anymore, and go somewhere else.
Und wenn sie dann aufwachen im Mai, ja, dann werden sie schon hier sehen, hier ist nicht mehr schön und woanders hingehen.
Have you seen any hazel mice yourself?
Nein.
Because that's what Mr. Paschold, he was telling us. He's never seen one.
Ja. Ja, aber es ist also mehrfach dokumentiert, dass es sie überall gibt.
Yes, but it's well documented that they exist everywhere here. As part of the environmental impact assessment, you also have to set up special tubes to see how many dormice there are.
Zu sehen, wie viele sind da. Ne?
So they're shy animals.
Und
They're
es
not
ist
easy to find.
sehr scheu. Und
They're very, very shy animals, and they also don't like to move across open areas. So if you cut through undergrowth and shrubs to make way for a wide gravel road or a big gravel surface, as far as the dormouse is concerned, its life is over. Because these animals won't move across a large open area. They normally scamper through shrubs and stay hidden.
die Gegend und bleiben natürlich auch in der Deckung. Ne?
And you want to show us some place where these live? Or the next place, shall we go?
Also wir gehen gleich mal rüber in den Reinhardswald.
Yes, exactly. So we'll go across into the forest, and there you can at least see where it would be possible to find them.
Why don't we go to the next spot?
Genau.
Yeah.
Das sind auch rein rechtlich alles Waldflächen.
Ja.
Ein Wald ist
Legally speaking, this is all forest area, and a forest is much more than the sum of its trees. So even if there don't happen to be any trees on the surface, that area is still subject to special protection regulations. Look here, you can see how saplings are slowly coming up in a place where the older trees died or were destroyed. It's still forest. because the heart of the forest is actually the soil. It takes about 100 years for 1 centimeter of humus to form. In ancient forest areas like this, it doesn't mean that there are always ancient trees growing there. That's a misconception. But in these areas that have continuously been forest for hundreds of years, there are very special species in the soil. It's a very sensitive ecosystem, a microbiome in the soil which has many interdependencies, such as trees communicating with each other over kilometers, thanks to these microfungal structures in the soil.
Zum Teil verständigen, ernähren, es gibt diese Mykorrhiza-Strukturen, also diese Pilzstrukturen. Und genau, hier sind wir. Ich weiß nicht, waren Sie hier?
Nee, nee. No, we weren't here.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're at another one of the spots where a turbine's supposed to be built. Here, so we're seeing on one side of the road here a closed-off forest path, trees everywhere, different types, and on the other side, here we see a bunch of tree stumps, open.
Genau.
Yeah.
Das ist FFH-Gebiet und hier vorne in die Ecke soll dann die Windanlage 12 hin.
That is a protected habitat area. And then over there in the corner is where turbine number 12 is supposed to be built. And here again, you can see the new beech trees coming up everywhere. And this is after we had a really dry summer. We had tree stumps all over here. And this is probably where the dormice also like to snuggle up. They like to be underneath the tree stumps. Does it really make sense to build a wind park in an area like this when it could really be put somewhere else? Because of nature conservation regulations, you're not even allowed to pitch a tent here and spend the night for animal protection reasons. So how can it be that we can build these giant turbines and everything that goes along with them in such a highly complex ecosystem, which all of a sudden seems to be seen as not so complex when it comes to building wind turbines?
In so ein hochkomplexes Ökosystem, was immer dann nicht mehr hochkomplex zu sein scheint, wenn es Windräder geht.
When we were here earlier in the Reinhardswald, Mr. Paschold showed us a few sites, and we asked him, why would you put a turbine here? Why did you choose this specific location? And one of the arguments he used was, well, this is a very windy area. And I'm looking at your brochure that I found in the car here, the campaign brochure, Rettet den Reinhardswald.
Ja, Schwachwindgebiet.
Yeah, and one of the arguments you say here is that it's a weak wind area.
Ja. Das ist es auch.
It is, as you can feel now.
It's not windy here.
Ne? So.
It was windy where we were.
Aber wir reden ja über Hessen. Und das heißt, je weiter wir ins Landesinnere kommen, umso weniger Wind weht natürlich.
We're talking about the state of Hessen. We're in the middle of the country, and the further inland you go, the less the wind blows, of course. At the same time, that's why the turbines are so high, almost at 250 meters. They are low-wind turbines with a huge blade diameter, which means they cover a huge amount of airspace and therefore could be reasonably profitable.
Und dadurch einigermaßen profitabel sein könnten.
Because that's my next question. Because if I were a businessman, why would I put a wind turbine somewhere if the wind isn't strong enough? That doesn't make sense to me.
Ja, für mich auch nicht. Also für mich wirklich auch nicht.
It doesn't make sense to me either, and it would only be possible with these huge turbines. You measure the output of wind power in full load hours. Installed capacity is never what the turbine can produce in reality. So wind turbines in Germany, on average, have 1,800 full load hours. Offshore, it's about 4,500 full load hours. And we have 8,760 hours in a year. So offshore turbines run about half of this time. The rest is zero. And supposedly, the bigger the turbine, the more you can harness the wind. But here in Hessen, in Reinhardswald, we have on average 800 full load hours. That's the maximum a turbine can produce here in a year. The rest of the year, about 7,000 hours, is zero. So that's why I always ask when people say it's enough to power 100,000 homes, well, would you seriously rely on a wind turbine to power your home? Seriously? And then people say, well, no, we're out there often and it's not always windy.
Würden Sie im Ernst Ihren Haushalt einzig an eine Windanlage anschließen? Wirklich, nur, ausschließlich. Und dann fällt jedem ein, nee, die stehen ja auch öfter, ist ja nicht immer Wind.
What are you going to do when these turbines are built and finalized, when the 18 turbines are here and your forest has changed? What
Ja,
happens? What are you going to do?
Ich glaube, dass dann erst recht viele Leute aufwachen, die jetzt immer noch nicht wissen, wie viele sind es, wo sind sie, wie groß sind sie, was wird da passieren.
I think that only then a lot of people will wake up. People who right now still have no idea how many turbines there will be, where they'll be built, and how big they'll be. We have quite a few tourists visiting the forest now, and I think these huge structures have the potential to stand for all that's wrong with the energy transition, a bit like a memorial. And that'll lead to a lot of right-wing groups leaping on it and saying, well, if you don't want that, then come to us. So I think it's actually a very dangerous development. From our point of view, there are many, many questions. Some of those are being looked at now. But if all of that isn't enough and the court ultimately allows this project to go ahead, then we'll at least document what it means.
Aber wenn all das nicht reicht, dann werden wir wenigstens dokumentieren, was das bedeutet.
So I think it's fair to say we did not get our clear-cut fairy tale ending in the Reinhardswald. I'm sorry about that.
Nope. It's up to the court now to decide whether Mr. Paschold's project can go ahead. But I think the momentum is on the side of the wind industry, given that the government is really trying to speed up the expansion of renewables right now. It's a sector that has grown and grown, but there's still a way to go before an industrial country like Germany can, get rid of fossil fuels altogether. So how far along the road to renewables have we come?
I brought some data for you here, so buckle up. Now, last year, the gross final energy consumption for renewables reached 19.7% here in Germany. And looking just at electricity, renewable energy provided just under 50% of Germany's power in the first half of this year. So that's a lot when you consider that in the year 2000, renewables accounted for just 6.3% of electricity demand. And by 2030, the government is aiming to get to 80%. Now, if we zero in on wind for a second, it went from producing 9.5 terawatt hours in the year 2000 to around 114 terawatt hours in 2021. So last year, wind power also had the largest share in gross German electricity production, a little over 20%, ahead of nuclear energy and brown coal. Now, all of this growth we're talking about over the last 20 years is in large part thanks to legislation, the Renewable Energy Sources Act, that provided incentives to boost energy production and innovation. Under a so-called renewable levy, the EEG-Umlage, German consumers had to pay more for their electricity, and that money was used to compensate people over a 20-year period if they invested in renewable technologies. For example, by putting a wind turbine or a solar panel on their property.
Now, one town that wanted to get in on this deal from the start was Ulrichstein in Vogelsberg in central Germany. It has about 3,000 inhabitants, and it's also not too far from the Reinhardswald, just a 2-hour drive to the south.
It took us a little bit longer, didn't it?
As usual. Going the right way. We're in dangerous territory here now again. Scheiße. So how many turnings have we now missed in total?
I'd say at least 4.
Okay, so let's park here then.
Find our guys.
Ich bin hier zugezogen vor 30 Jahren.
I moved here 30 years ago because the landscape was beautiful, and I liked the nature here. That is, until the wind turbines arrived.
Dann die Windkraftanlagen kamen.
That's Hans Tegelbeckers. He's 83, and we met him and his friend Werner Weitzel, who's 68, at a cafe. Though it actually looked a little bit more of like a log cabin, if you remember. It
was very nice. I actually felt like eating there. It was really, really comfy.
Yeah. We thought
food looked good.
Recommended it, yeah. But it was sort of a cabin-y place in the forest close to Ulrichstein. Now, these two guys, they're founders of a local group called Gegenwind, which means against wind in Germany. So that gives you a good idea of what their position is. But they told us they didn't always feel that way.
Man sah da die ersten Anlagen im Vogelsberg. Da haben wir gedacht, eine tolle Idee eigentlich von den Ulrichsteinern.
We saw the first wind turbines and said, wow, that's a great idea the people in Ulrichstein came up with. They're producing their own electricity and can sell it, like power station suppliers. There was the whole story about renewable energies, about sun and wind not writing any bills, until we realized that there was a bill, and it was huge, and that someone was going to have to pay it. We saw what happened when no wind blows. Before, they said wind always blows. It's always windy somewhere. But that's just not true.
Wind weht immer. Irgendwo weht immer Wind. Ja, irgendwo weht immer Wind. Nur das stimmt nicht.
There are 53 turbines in Ulrichstein's wind parks, and we saw quite a few of them from the road, actually. Now, the first community wind park there opened in 1996, and according to the current mayor, it took 15 years for the city to make a profit from its investment. And then after 20 years, the compensation provided by the renewables levy, the EEG-Umlage, it ran out. And wind turbines, they also need to be repowered when their service life comes to an end. Usually that's about every 20 or so years. And that means they get dismantled and replaced with bigger, more efficient and more powerful models. And that's also a process that costs a lot of money.
So in Ulrichstein, after the subsidies ended and the turbines needed to be upgraded, they were all gradually sold. And as far as Hans and Werner are concerned, their community is a prime example of why wind power doesn't make economic sense. They say the issues become purely political. Here's Werner first.
If the renewable energy levy didn't exist, no investor would build a wind turbine.
I've brought some documents here. This is a typical newspaper article about the wind farm, with the mayor saying he made more than 300,000 euros in profit every year. That's just not true. You have to calculate an investment. Today, big turbines cost almost 7 or 8 million euros. But for these small ones, at that time, they were 1.5 to 2 million. They had to be financed. And the depreciation runs over 15 years. Within that time, they didn't make a profit. So they never would have made any money at all if we hadn't come up with the renewable energy levy in Germany, which was used to subsidize these installations.
And just for the record, we did try to get in touch with Ulrichstein's mayor about this to find out how much money the city actually made with the wind parks. But he declined to be interviewed for the podcast. But according to local newspapers citing him, after the initial 15 years, the town made a profit of between 300,000 and a little over 400,000 euros each year with the communal turbines, depending, of course, on just how windy it was.
Yeah, that was one of their main points that they made, right? That wind power can be volatile because the wind doesn't blow at the same speed every day in every location. And yeah, that's something we were wondering about ourselves on the road, right, Neil? Because we would see a lot of turbines, and a lot of the times they weren't spinning, or some were spinning, some weren't. Yeah, and I took a look into it, and there could be a few reasons for this. For example, the turbine could be undergoing maintenance, or the wind is too strong, or it's too weak, or it's just not windy enough.
Now, in a good location, an onshore wind turbine usually reaches about 25% of its capacity over a year. In other words, a quarter of the power it could produce when operating at full capacity. Now, across Germany, it's a little under 20% on average, and for turbines built offshore, where it's often much windier, the yield is, of course, higher. But it really depends on weather conditions. And for Hans and Werner, that's way too much of a gamble.
If there's no wind, it doesn't help to have 1,000 wind turbines, or 100,000. 100 times 0 is 0, and 100,000 times 0 is also 0. And that is a key problem.
So you're saying you're against wind energy in general. Sie sind gegen Windkraft insgesamt.
Indeed, yeah.
Ja, und dasselbe gilt letztendlich auch für die Photovoltaik, weil nachts scheint keine Sonne.
Yes, and the same also applies to photovoltaics. Because at night there's no sun, so where is the electricity supposed to come from then? Especially for companies that need to produce constantly and also need power at night. And in that sense, it's idiotic to say that at some point we'll be able to rely completely on renewable energies. And that's just talking about electricity. Transport and everything else comes on top of that.
Yeah. Okay, well, what would be a different solution? Was wäre eine andere Lösung, Ihrer Meinung nach?
Kernenergie. Nur. Das ist das Einzige, was wirklich
Nuclear energy. That is the only one that really makes sense. But we in Germany are terribly afraid of nuclear energy. Why? I don't know. We Germans know how to panic. The Americans call it the German angst. It's a problem. And with that fear, you can also enforce such technologies such as wind power and solar. I can see how photovoltaics could be useful for someone who maybe has a battery in the basement and can have electricity from solar power during the day and night. But you cannot provide electricity to a single household all year round with wind power. I believe that we'll only be able to manage the power supply in Europe if we continue to burn coal and gas, or by using nuclear energy. But we'll never solve the problem with wind and sun.
Oder wir machen Kernenergie. Aber mit Wind und Sonne werden wir das Thema nie gelöst kriegen.
The aspect of having reliable and constant energy is a very important one, especially in an industrial country like Germany.
That's a main key. Yeah.
Would your position change if wind energy could actually be stored, if we had better battery capacities and storage capacities?
Of course.
That would change your position.
Absolutely, yeah, sure. But it's impossible to do it. And at this time, it is impossible to do it. Maybe in other countries it could be possible, but in Germany not. In Europe not.
So yeah, Hans and Werner obviously have a long string of complaints about wind turbines.
Yeah, and they were super prepared for the interview, right?
Yeah.
They brought along a pile of charts and documents to show us, letters to the mayor, newspaper clippings.
Yeah, they did their homework.
Yeah.
So there's the lack of wind storage capacity. There's the fact that building a wind farm apparently isn't a good investment.
Yeah, that was on their list. And they also say that the turbines in their region have killed birds, such as the protected red kite. And of course, these deaths, they're hard to measure, but environmental organization NABU estimates that wind farms in Germany kill more than 100,000 birds a year.
The wind story is an untrue story. That is not a real good story. I'll show you. That's the statistic from...
And these two, they also hold the wind park responsible for the sharp drop in tourism in Ulrichstein since the 1990s.
Yeah, they were really upset about that, I had the impression.
Yeah.
Das sind die Kommunen hier in Vogelsberg.
These are the municipalities in the Vogelsberg area. And here you can see how many tourists they've received. These are the numbers from the 90s, when Ulrichstein was the town with the highest number of overnight stays. And this is Ulrichstein today.
And you blame this on the wind park?
Yeah, of course.
Why?
Why not?
Have people said that they're not coming in because they don't like the turbines?
Would you make vacation under Windrad? No.
Das Thema Infraschall spielt ja dann zumindest auch eine Rolle dabei. Ja?
Infrasound also plays a role because these turbines emit low-frequency sound waves. There are many reports in Germany showing that people who live close to wind turbines have had to sell their houses and move away because of infrasound. Of course, this is something that can't be proven on the basis of any parameters, and these people are often just put in the drawer, and it's explained away as being psychological.
Gesteckt mit, ja, das ist psychisch und keine Ahnung, ja.
Wir hatten vorher 3 Hotels in Ulrichstein.
We used to have 3 hotels in Ulrichstein. Today, we just have one dilapidated one.
Eine Ruine können Sie dort noch besichtigen.
So you can still visit this ruin. You can ask the authorities. It's just a ruin that's completely overgrown now.
Now, Hans and Werner say that in the early days, they used to go to regional council meetings every month and lobby their local politicians in the state capital Wiesbaden. But now, they're pretty much resigned. They've given up.
Yeah, and they seemed really frustrated that they said they often get lumped together with the far-right groups, like I was talking about, like the AfD party, just because they question the way the planned energy transition is playing out in their town.
Also die Politik hat alle Leute immer permanent ausgehebelt und dann hat man gesehen.
The politicians just used and canceled us. So we've given up. We realized it didn't make sense to talk about this issue to politicians.
Ich gebe seit 15 Jahren leere Stimmzettel ab. Seit 15 Jahren.
For 15 years, I've been casting blank ballots. I hope that one day there will be 100% voter participation and all ballots will be unmarked. Maybe politicians would wake up then. But now, I don't think I'll bother going anymore. There's no point.
Weil, für was?
I'm just going to hop over there just for a second. You know what I'm going to do.
Right. Oh, I know what you're going to do. Disgusting. Well, after a brief delay, we were back on the road.
You just can't stop, right?
There were a lot of delays. But on the way to our hotel, we caught sight of some wind turbines, and we decided to go get a closer look for ourselves. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay, there's easily one? 30, 40?
This one is right by the road.
Yeah. You want to get out and take a photo?
We could just walk up to one of them here.
Yeah.
We could just park
Sure.
the car.
Yeah, there's so
somewhere.
many here. Nice view. Like in the distance.
Well, you better put your jacket on, it is windy.
Yeah, okay. Walking up now to the closest I have ever been to a windmill. Oh God, it's so big. I'm afraid it's gonna fall on us.
It's kind of weird when you're looking up and the clouds are moving at the same time. And it's spinning, kind of makes you a bit dizzy.
See what you mean. What are you saying?
It's hollow. Yeah.
Sound? You hear that whoosh? There's two. I'm hearing two sounds. I'm hearing like a constant kind of like.
Yeah, that's
then
from
the-
inside here. That's, I think, the power generator. It says here, look on the side, high voltage. And it's locked. Unbefugten ist der Zutritt strengstens verboten.
Ooh, strengsten. That's pretty. That's pretty intense.
It sounds a lot less loud than I thought it would be.
It's not like whoosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But these, I think it says on it, look, Stadt Ulrichstein. I think these are the ones that are supposed to be repowered.
Yeah.
So
okay.
this is like the
So
old
they've
version.
sold them.
Yeah, and they're going to get an upgrade and be a lot bigger, and probably they're going to get rid of half of them because the ones that are coming next, they're going to be at least, well, twice as high.
Twice as high. Look, there's a bird, like a falcon or something, fluttering right there next to the one.
He's living dangerously.
Yeah, kind of. There it goes. Yeah, there's definitely birds here.
Look at that rotor blade over there. It's got like black smidges over it. It looks as if it has hit something.
Like something. Yeah, it's like when you're like how a car windshield looks when it hits a mosquito, except
This is big.
a giant
Yeah, big bird.
bloody motor. I don't know. It's a very beautiful landscape here on its own. So I can see why, if you knew it beforehand, you would probably hate this. But on seeing it for the first time, it personally doesn't bother me. I don't know. How do you feel?
I feel the same way. It doesn't. I mean, sure, you could argue aesthetically it's not the nicest, but I mean, it wouldn't bother me, I don't think. Not sure how I'd feel if I lived next to one, but if I just passed by here, I'd just think, yeah, wind turbines, nice.
Yeah. But I can imagine, I was thinking about what our guys today would think. And if you look around and think, this isn't solving the energy crisis, then you see it differently.
I guess they look at this and think just what a tremendous waste of money and resources, right? And it ruins the forest landscape for them.
We spoke a little bit earlier about how rapidly renewables like wind and solar have been growing in Germany, but the sector has also had some rocky periods.
Yeah, and particularly with wind. I mean, just look at 2019. In that year, there was an 80% drop in the expansion of onshore wind farms in Germany, so a super sharp decline. And turbine manufacturer Senvion had to file for insolvency even. And Germany's market leader Enercon cut thousands of jobs due to the slump.
Also, in the first 3 months of this year, the number of construction permits for new onshore wind turbines fell by 14% compared to 2021. As we saw in Ulrichstein, projects can face objections from local residents, or they can be stalled by concerns about wildlife, like in the Reinhardswald, and the approval process can get complicated. I'm sure the pandemic probably also played a role in some of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And if we look at solar, I mean, same story in a way. The industry had skyrocketed in Germany initially, creating more than 150,000 jobs by 2011 and spurring a steady increase in capacity every year. But things began to deteriorate after 2012. Competition, it was mainly from China, led to an 80% drop in solar expansion between 2013 and 2015. Thousands of jobs were lost and major companies shut down. So, yeah, I mean, just looking at those figures, what happened? And what has it meant for the energy transition? You know, let's bring in Claudia Kemfert here, the professor of energy economics at the German Institute of Economic Research in Berlin. She has the answers to this.
So there has been a good start 20 years ago with increasing share and with the promotion of renewable energy. Has been a good system and everything started well, but then there came a rollback. There was a lobby influence from fossil industry trying to really speed down the whole process, and barriers has been initiated, the market incentives have been declined for renewables, And a lot of difficulties in the market has been established, and this is why we lost over 100,000 jobs related in the wind industry and the solar. That are so heavily needed jobs now because we want to have more renewables very fast, but we don't have enough jobs. And this is all happened because the previous governments has decided not to have this full transformation and to policy the whole process down. And we are now paying a very high price for the delayed energy transition, not only in economic terms, but also in policy terms, but also geostrategical difficulties which we have right now, and also related to peace and war. So the price is really, really high.
What the critics seem to be saying is that it's not always a reliable form of energy. Since it's not always windy, we don't have the storage capacity for renewables to balance out the dry spells. And it's a bit of my impression that the critics think that it's in some ways a waste of time, a waste of money, a waste of resources, and maybe in a way a type of greenwashing, that it's maybe not going to provide us with energy on a level that makes it worth the investment. What do you think about those criticisms?
Well, we have shown in so many studies that a 100% renewable energy system is working. It's technically feasible. It's economically efficient. It reduces the cost. It reduces emissions, and it brings also, energy security. And all those arguments I know since 20 years. And those myths are the reason why we are now in this energy crisis, because they are not there in order to provide solutions and to provide solutions to a full supply of renewable energy, but just to stop the whole process, in order to keep burning coal, in order to keep using nuclear, in order to keep burning oil, and keep burning fossil gas. And this is why we are in this mess now. And wind, of course, is very cheap right now, but wind alone cannot make it. We need a team player system. That means wind together with solar, biomass, geothermal, and hydrogen. And of course, also in those times where we need flexibility, also storages will play a role. That is battery storage, pumped hydro storage, or also green hydrogen. So the full list of solutions is there. And a lot of studies show that it's feasible, and we can really make it if we want.
And finally, let's check in with one of the other experts we spoke to for this podcast series. Fiete Wolf is the spokesperson for Germany's Bundesnetzagentur. In English, that's the Federal Network Agency, which oversees essential infrastructure from gas to the power grid, as well as rail, telecommunications, and postal here in Germany. He says Germany has one of the most stable power grids in the world, and that's with the expanding share of renewable energies. So, like Professor Kemfert, he sees no reason why Germany couldn't eventually phase out fossil fuels altogether.
Ja, das ist möglich. Das hängt an einer ganzen Menge von Faktoren.
Yes, it is possible, but it depends on a lot of different factors. In particular, we can no longer think about the German power system as an island. We have to see it as a large European system where electricity can also flow to us from other regions in Europe when we don't have enough ourselves. As a bridge, we'll need conventional forms of energy, and we'll continue to need them for the next 10 to 15 years.
In den kommenden 10, 15 Jahren weiterhin benötigen.
Well, to wrap this thing up, Neil, it's been a couple weeks since we took this trip, and as we heard in the episode, we were both kind of torn in a few different directions the whole time for this project. How do you feel about it today?
Well, particularly this episode, the wind episode, it was, I think going into it, I already was dreading it to a certain degree. I think you noticed that, because it was like...
I thought it was me.
No. I just knew, how entrenched the positions are on this, and also the fact that we're talking to two environmentally minded people who both had very good arguments. I knew it would be really tricky to get off the fence on this one. I noticed as we were going along what I thought was really interesting. We started off with Paschold, the entrepreneur, who was also environmentally minded, or at least that's the impression he gave us. And everything he said, it really resonated with me. And I actually
me too.
I got quite excited about his project initially. And I thought, yeah, of course, this is a great idea. And then we went with Müller-Zitzke, and it was like I was going the other way. It was almost like I was going with the wind. I was blowing. I had my flag up, and wherever the wind blew, that's where I went.
You were also sick that day. I don't know if that.
I was also sick.
Yeah,
that
but no,
day,
I had the same experience. I felt that way as well.
And I knew that this would happen. I think just going into it, I knew this was going to be tricky. And but I mean, coming out of it now, I think for me now, I've definitely changed my opinion completely. This was one of the episodes where I did do a whole Angela Merkel-style U-turn.
Like her nuclear U-turn, but wind. Yeah. Neil's wind U-turn.
Neil's wind U-turn. Initially, I felt, yeah, of course, because I've also got it at the back of where I live, the forest. There are parts that have been wrecked by the bark beetle, and the forest just looks devastated. It just looks like a Lord of the Rings, Mordor, right? Horrible. Mm. And initially, I also thought, why don't we put wind turbines here? Turn this into something good. And so I was really positive towards wind turbines also being built in forests if the forest is damaged, particularly that most of the forests are monocultures anyway, right?
Yeah.
But then coming out of this and hearing Müller-Zitzke talk about how, particularly when she was saying about how this is still forest, even if it looks dead, there are trees, they're bouncing back, you can see it, they're growing. And this soil is still intact, and there's so much life in this soil. And there were a lot of things that she just pointed out, which, I kind of knew, but I think the way she presented it, it became clear to me, actually, it's right. It's maybe premature to build a huge structure on this and just deal with it as if it's dead ground. It's not. And the fact also you can't camp in any forest in Germany. You can't just go and pitch your tent. It's true.
Yeah.
That's prohibited. And yet you can build a huge structure like that.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, my bottom line was I felt like these 18 wind turbines that Paschold wants to build, they're not going to change, our energy supply on a grand scale. And this forest is quite unique. It is untouched. So
you're not against the turbines per se. You just don't want them there.
I don't think we should put them there.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
No, not after having been there.
Yeah, I also remember coming away from visiting her being really struck, and I felt like the different sites they showed us told different stories depending on what he wanted to say or what she wanted to say. And she showed us these sites, and they looked some parts indistinguishable from the protected forest right next to them, right? So that was really striking for me as well. I think my main takeaway from this episode is how important storage capacity is going to be for if we're going to rely on energy like wind and like sun. Because as our guys in Ulrichstein laid out for us, we just can't rely on that energy without that technology there. So for me, I want to know more about where that's headed, what the capabilities are there. And I don't necessarily want those turbines in a fairy tale forest either.
Yeah.
No.
But that's also important that you point that out with the experts, because that's also one question that we had going in, right? Is an energy system in a country like Germany possible that is purely based on renewables? Is that doable at all? And the experts very clearly said, yes, it is doable, especially if it's coupled, throughout Europe. Because at some point in Europe, there will always be wind, there will always be sun, no matter where you are.
Sure.
And of course, you need the storage capacities. But
I would also say I did find Paschold's argument convincing, like, put the wind turbines up and take them down later. Not necessarily, again, I'm not saying I want them in the forest, but this idea of, like, that this is a developing process and that the getting onto renewables is gonna need a lot more development of technology, and maybe we'll develop technologies where we don't need windmills then later, and then you could take them down again. But of course, we don't really want to sacrifice the ecosystem of the forest in the meantime. But I think he had a good point about that these are not necessarily forever. So.
That's also an important point you raised there with the ecosystems, right? Because if we're putting it in forests and we don't give the trees the opportunity to bounce back. Forests also store carbon, right?
Right.
So I guess you would probably need like a full balance sheet on this that sort of takes all factors into account if we're talking about combating the climate crisis. So maybe 18 turbines, if you compare it to what the forest can actually store in terms of carbon, if you let trees grow. I don't know. It would be interesting to see a balance sheet there.
Yeah, how's the scale balance out on that? Yeah, no, that's a good one. But I I don't know that I still have a super clear opinion about wind after that. I definitely know a lot more about it
But
now.
it was the closest I've ever come to a wind turbine.
Same.
And it didn't... the structures themselves, they didn't really bother me. They were a lot quieter than I thought they would be. I mean,
Right.
fair enough, the ones that we went very close to, they're much smaller than the one that Paschold is building,
Mhm.
right? They were like half the size.
Mm.
But you couldn't really hear them. They didn't really, I don't know, I didn't feel like it was aesthetically a huge problem. They didn't look too bad.
Mm.
So, I don't know. For me, it did boil down to the whole ecosystem and just the life that is still in the forest and that will come back. It will return. We just need to give it time and it will return.
Right. Well, anyway, it's time to tease our next episode. We've already covered gas, nuclear, and wind for this energy series. Next time, we're going to be looking at coal.
Yeah, so we'll be taking you to coal country to find out how the energy crisis is playing out there. Now that coal, it's really back on the menu, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, there's some major positive sides to this. Coal is readily available right here in Germany. It would mean energy independence to some degree. It's close, it's cheap.
Yeah, but it's a climate killer too, of course.
Right, yeah, of course. And talking about killers, Neil, should we also tease the werewolf?
How did that sound?
You've done, I think you could do better. That take was pretty good. That was good. Any case.
I'm growing hair.
Gotta get out of here. All right, so this week's episode was produced with the help of Natalie Muller and Benjamin Ressel. Our sound engineer was Jürgen Kuhn, and we're always happy to get your feedback or perhaps some questions. Just email us at onthegreenfence@dw.com. Thank you so much for listening, rating, and sharing On the Green Fence. My name is Kristie Platson.
And my name is Neil King.
Ow!
There she is. Well done.
On the Green Fence.